Much love and power to you guys. Today we're talking about what a spiritual awakening is and the stages that a soul goes through into the spiritual awakening. Okay, and if you're interested, I do one-on-one coaching sessions, so if you're interested in working with me, feel free to send me a message and let's actually step right into play. I also have a Patreon account, so if you're interested in subscribing there, feel free to actually send me a subscription and offer me your gift of appreciation if you feel like that is what you want to do. Okay, so now we're talking about what a spiritual awakening is. Really, a spiritual awakening is the recalibration and the starting of the journey of the infinite self. Okay, we are actually stepping into a new power, we are stepping into a new beauty of adventure, we are stepping into a new way of living. Okay, and usually this awakening happens right now on the planet, and there are many souls that are actually awakening to their truth, to their power, to their strength. Okay, we also have to realize that a spiritual awakening is not easy, and sometimes we feel disconnected from our higher self, or we feel disconnected from our spirit. But when we learn to love ourselves in the process, when we learn to actually restart the connection, now we realize that we can actually integrate everything in our lives, you know. So the first stage of a spiritual awakening is where you really open yourself to a new version of life. When you actually open your senses to a new version of yourself, it's where you step into a new vibrational alignment, is where you recognize your potential. Okay, everybody has the gift of awakening, and in a way the planet is actually going through a massive shift in consciousness. Okay, so when we realize that we are connected to source energy, when we realize that the human potential can actually go beyond anything, now we realize that we can actually awaken to our truth. Okay, so the first stage of a spiritual awakening is where we really open our senses to a new reality, to a new version of life. Is where we open our senses, it's where we actually open our spiritual senses, is where we realize how we can actually shift ourselves. We realize how we can step into a new version of ourselves, you know. And this is actually really beautiful, because we get to realize that there is actually more to life. There is actually more to life, and there is actually more to our consciousness. There is actually more to our consciousness. And really, when we open these gifts, we realize that wow, life is actually so beautiful. And now we have stepped into a new version of ourselves, which is actually our higher self, which is actually our highest potential, you know. Now, the second stage of a spiritual awakening is where we really go and we actually get in deep into our soul's pain, where we get actually deep into our suffering. And this is actually called the dark night of the soul, where the spiritual seeker actually chooses to go in through rough moments in order for him to actually recalibrate himself, you know. It's like we are experiencing a low state of consciousness. It's like we are feeling depressed. Okay, it's like we are, in a way, we are forgetting who we were. It's like where the ego actually comes in again, you know. And this is actually really important, because there is so much strength and power in the dark night of the soul. It's like you are recoming back home into yourself. It's like you're recoming back home into your pure natural self, you know. And really, the dark night of the soul is something that I think that it is actually essential for us to go through in order to actually come back on the other side of the coin and actually realize how powerful we were in the process. You know, I have been through the dark night of the soul, but I realized that in a way there is always light, there is always guidance, there is always peace, there is always abundance. But it's like we cannot really, in the dark night of the soul, we cannot really realize it. We cannot really see it, because our consciousness in a way is recalibrating itself, and we are actually going through rough times, you know. And yes, a spiritual awakening also contains the dark night of the soul. A spiritual awakening is something that actually makes us go deep into our subconscious mind and realize who and what we are at a soul level, you know. And now I'm gonna step into the third stage, which is integration. You know, it's about seeing yourself like you have completed your roughest moment. It's like you have seen that you have completed the roughest experiences, and now you start integrating them. You start integrating that part of yourself that was hurt, that was wounded. You start integrating everything about yourself in the integration process. You realize that it has been enough. It has been enough. And now you have the power to actually come back home again into your pure natural self. So a spiritual awakening starts for most of the cases with bliss, but the second stage is where we are actually experiencing the dark night of the soul. We are experiencing that part of ourselves that doesn't want to be experienced, and in a way we have to actually face ourselves in the process. We have to face ourselves in the process and realize how powerful we are still, but it feels like we are losing power in those moments. It feels like we are depressed. It feels like we cannot really go through life anymore. It feels like we are really disconnected from our spirit. It feels like we cannot really do it anymore. But what I've realized is that I can always actually trust. I can always trust the process, and I can always realize that I won't give up on myself. I won't give up on myself, and I will still be on purpose. I will still be on a mission. I will still be myself in the process, So yes, the second stage is the dark night of the soul. Now the third stage is integration. This is where we actually, in a way, let go of our egos, and we really step into our higher self, into our higher nature, into our best potential. This is the stage where we are really letting go of old wounds, okay? And in a way, this is the stage where the first stage is actually coming back, and we are actually re-experiencing the bliss, the power, the strength, the abundance. This is the stage where we are actually reintegrating ourselves in the spiritual world and in the human world. It's like when we awaken, we have our consciousness up in the skies, and we realize that anything is possible. We realize that there are higher vibrational levels to this life. There are high vibrational levels to our consciousness. But really, when we go through the dark night of the soul, we also have to integrate our human self, and now in the integration process, in a way, we are integrating both sides of the coin. We are really integrating everything about ourselves, and the fourth stage would be the completion process. The fourth stage would be the completion process. This is where we are actually stepping in our purpose. This is where we are actually stepping into our full power, and in a way, when we are integrating ourselves, we are actually remembering our purpose. We are remembering why we came here on the planet, and why we came here on the planet is different for everybody. Everybody has a unique mission. Everybody has a unique mission. And in the integration process, you gotta, in a way, remember your true self. You gotta remember who and what you are at a soul level. In the integration process, you realize that you have the power to actually be anything that you desire. You have the power to actually be yourself in the process, And in the completion process is where we are actually feeling happy again. Is where we are, just a second, there is too much light. There is too much light. Okay. Okay, this is good. In the completion process, we are really actually stepping into our soul purpose, into our soul's mission. We are really reclaiming back our power, and we are turning into being our complete self, So, awakening, dark night of the soul, integrating the pain, integrating the darkness, and the fourth stage, the completion process. This is really powerful because we get to be ourselves in the process. We get to actually channel a new energy. We get to actually recover, and we get to actually reveal that part of ourselves that is actually super powerful, super abundant, that is actually super in a state that is actually complete and abundant and powerful. Okay, so these are the stages of a spiritual awakening. A spiritual awakening happens for those who are seeking spirituality. A spiritual awakening is happening for those who are opening their consciousness to curiosity. It's for those who are stepping into vibrational alignment. It's for those who are being curious about the spirit world. It's for those who are being curious about how this life works. Is for those who are stepping into their power. Okay, so these are the stages of a spiritual awakening. Awakening, dark night of the soul, which is not easy. Integration and completion process. These are the 4 stages. And if you feel like you resonate with this, feel free to actually send me a subscribe to my channel, and we will see and you will have the opportunities to see what will come up next on my YouTube channel. Okay, so these are the 4 stages, guys. These are the 4 stages. If you feel like you resonate with this, feel free to actually leave a comment and share the good vibes. Okay, so thank you for watching, and see you on what is coming up next. These are my 4 stages of a spiritual awakening. Trust the process, trust yourself, and realize that you cannot fail. You cannot really fail, and you don't have to give up. You don't have to give up. Even if it gets hard, even if it gets painful, don't give up, and realize that you have a mission here. And if you are on the path of spiritual awakening, feel free to actually open your consciousness and watch how beautiful and magical you are. Okay, guys, so much peace, and see you on what is coming up next. These are the 4 stages of a spiritual awakening. Much peace, and see ya on what is coming up next. I love you. Much peace. Ciao.